Hi, Gigi here again to cook up some meatloaf from our trusty Betty Crocker cookbook again. We do add a little bit of seasoning. We use an added McCormick's meatloaf packet to it, but we basically follow the recipe that is in the old school Betty Crocker cookbook. The first thing that we need to do is get our oven temperature set, and that is for 350. So we will get our oven ready for bake at 350, and then we will go and get our ingredients ready. This recipe calls for 1.5 pounds of hamburger, a cup of dry breadcrumbs. We use the panko, but you could use just regular old bread if you wanted to, or crackers, anything you wanted, dry bread, like a stuffing mix that didn't have a lot of spices on it. And then we need an egg, and we need a small onion that I'll chop up in just a moment, just about 1/4 cup. And then we need some Worcestershire sauce, which I did not have any, but I found a hack online that I'm going to try that called for 1 tablespoon of ketchup, a 1/2 tablespoon of vinegar, and a 1/2 tablespoon of soy sauce. So we'll see how it goes. And then we also need a little bit of dried mustard, salt and pepper, and it does call for ground sage, but we don't really have any of that either. And then of course we just add this McCormick's meatloaf pack as well, just to give just a smidge more flavor. You could always just use the recipe that's on the back of this meatloaf recipe as well. All right, so all we have to do is mix all of this together, but I want to chop up my onion first. All right, so we're just going to give this a quick chop, dice. You just chop to whatever your family's desire is, and it'll be around 1/4 cup. If you don't have, it can be more or less depending on how you enjoy your onion. I'll just do a quick little chop here. And it should be right around 1/4. It looks like I'm going to be a little over. That's okay. We don't mind onion in our food. Okay, so here's our onion. We have our onion sliced up. I'm going to add that to our ground beef. We have our cup of breadcrumbs we're going to add to our ground beef. We have our egg, which I will kind of whip up a little bit, break it up a little bit, the yolk. Just to make sure that that's okay. Our egg thrown in, and our Worcestershire hack, which we need 1 tablespoon of this. We'll see how it goes. We need 1/2 teaspoon of our dried mustard. And then it calls for 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, or 1/4 teaspoon, excuse me, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. But we're just going to give it a good shake of salt, because that soy sauce we added had some salt in it, so we're not going to over salt. And also our McCormick pack will have some salt, and then that was just ground pepper. And then we are going to mix this all together. You can also add garlic, clove of garlic to this if you want, but we are out of fresh garlic, and our McCormick seasoning pack has a lot of those spices in there. So I'm going to get this all mixed up. Okay. I'm going to add our McCormick seasoning pack. Has just a variety of different seasonings in there. best way to do this is to kind of finish mixing it with clean hands. That looks really like it should. Mix together with our onion and our spices and our bread. Okay, and then we want to use a loaf pan, which this pan my mom gave to me, so it is very, very old, probably over 50 years old, so that's why it kind of looks the way it is, but we love it. So we want to put our meat mixture into our loaf pan. Just shape it into a loaf. Kind of smush it down in there. Again, you can use a spoon if you wish, but my hands are clean. Just get this all smashed in here. And that looks like it should. Okay, and then we want to bake this for about an hour to an hour and a half until its internal temperature is 160 to 165. So we'll get this in the oven. I'll wash up my hands and then we'll get this in the oven. All right, so our meatloaf is going to go into the oven at 350 for about an hour, hour and a half, and then we'll recheck it. Now, we sometimes put a mixture of some brown sugar and ketchup on the top. Pops, my husband, he doesn't really like that much, so I usually just do a coating of that on half of the meatloaf right when it's basically done, and then you just put it back in there for a few minutes to let that sort of caramelize and add some flavor. And I do that on half because I enjoy that flavor, but again, like I said, Pops doesn't. He just likes it plain with his mashed potatoes and gravy, and that's how we usually serve this, with mashed potatoes with gravy and a salad or green beans, and then the meatloaf. So when this is finished, I will give you an update and let you see what it looks like. Thank you for watching the channel. Okay, so for the glaze that I'm going to put on half of our meatloaf, I have about a half of a cup of loosely packed brown sugar here, and then a half of a cup of ketchup. And so we just blend those two things together. Give them a good mix. So just get the majority of your lumps out of your sugar. And then you would just spread this on the top of your meatloaf and let it bake just a few more minutes to come to temperature and sort of caramelize a bit. Okay, so we're going to put a little of this on about half of the meatloaf. And we will put it back in the oven for just a few more minutes. It should be good to go. All right, so it has a little bit of caramelization. Just going to cut in a small little corner out of this so we can get a good look at it. Done throughout. Internal temperature is 160 or so. So looks very good. We would serve this with, this is pretty warm, but we'll get a little taste. Delicious. And again, it's from the old school Betty Crocker cookbook. And thank you for watching. This is just meatloaf that we would serve with a salad or green beans and some mashed potatoes and gravy, or even french fries or tater tots, depending. Or Pops likes to take this with a meatloaf sandwich, which is just bread and mayo and a slice of meatloaf. All right, thank you. Thank you for watching the channel. See you soon.